Hello and welcome to Tête à Tête, France 24's flagship interview show. Our guest today is the President of Kenya, William Ruto. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, my friend, and welcome to Kenya.
Yes, we are indeed in Nairobi. The Africa Forward Summit just concluded. For France, it was a different way to see Africa, not through French-speaking Africa and not through politics, but through Kenya and through business. Do you believe this is really an important change in the way France views Africa and how Africa responds?
It is, and it was meant to be, because we as Africans want to recalibrate our relationship with our partners. And I want to thank President Macron for having the courage to do this, to make the relationship between France and Africa much more inclusive. In the past, it was seen as though it was a French Francophone relationship. Now that we have an Anglophone country for the first time hosting a France-Africa summit, it is a shift in the direction of making it much more inclusive, much more broader. And the fact that we are focusing not largely around politics, we are focusing around investment, around business, mainstreaming the private sector, bringing public-private partnerships to the heart of public infrastructure, public national development, and all the good things that are happening in that space. So this was different, this was significant, and it was meant to be.
How significant is it? Because obviously we heard all the speeches, win-win partnership, etc., but we've heard them many times, Mr. President. What will Kenyans see as different after this summit and the announcement, concretely for their daily lives?
Already we are making a very big difference. We just launched a 35 million euro investment, blended finance, grant and soft loan for Nairobi University and for 4 other universities. We did sign an agreement of investment by a French corporate entity on expansion and management and investment in our ports.
In Mombasa.
In Mombasa. We just signed a program that will enable Kenya to tap into French technology in renewable energy, in nuclear energy, knowing very well that France, since the Second World War, has 75% of its energy from nuclear energy. So these are clear interventions. We have run our public participation program. We are ready for renewable energy. And already I have communicated to the people of Kenya that we need an extra 10,000 megawatts. And I'm very happy that French technology is the best technology and we will be tapping into it.
Are you going to build a nuclear plant?
We are going to build a nuclear plant. We have already undertaken the necessary...
The first one, obviously.
The first one, yeah, the first one. And we had options to use Korea, to use Russia, to use Canada. But I think the best technology so far that has been presented to us is the French technology, and we are happy to work on it together.
You are scheduled to attend the G7 meeting in France in June. What will be your main message? You've talked at length about the burden of the debt in Africa, the higher borrowing costs, the credit ratings mechanism. What do you hope to achieve?
We have discussed reform of the international financial architecture, and it is ongoing. We have discussed credit rating and the unfairness of some of the credit rating agencies on African economies. And that is why we've come up with an African rating agency that will help bring the experience, the knowledge, the understanding of African economies into the equation. In the G7 meeting, we will not necessarily be discussing the things we have discussed before. We are also presenting ideas on how we can raise concessional domestic resources for the development of our continent beyond the resources that we can mobilize from the Bretton Woods institution. And you heard us say very clearly that we will be presenting concrete proposals to G7 for two things, not necessarily money, but for call-up capital and for guarantees, which do not require money. But it will give our Africa multilateral financial institutions the necessary rating for them to be able to mobilize domestic savings in Africa that actually are all the way to $4 trillion, which today is not available for African development, but they are our resources. So we need to unlock those resources to finance infrastructure development, energy development, the development of our continent. So it is a proposal that I think will not be difficult to sell, because this is a proven journey. And of course, we have a good champion in President Macron.
Right. You'll need to convince Donald Trump. Speaking of Donald Trump, the administration of the United States has pushed for agreements with African countries for them to accept immigrants deported from the United States. We know many presidents or heads of governments have been asked. What about Kenya?
Kenya has not received any such request.
And if
we are ready, we will cross that line when we get there. But we are ready to engage with members of the G7, including President Trump. I have engaged with President Trump before. I consider that he is understanding, especially on matters to do with what Africa can do for itself. I think President Trump believes that there must be a win-win outcome. You must put in as much as you get out. And so I think we will not have a problem persuading the other members of the G7 in supporting Africa's position for self-reliance, for a win-win outcome. And I don't think there will be anybody who has a problem with a mutually beneficial win-win outcome.
I want to get some regional issues. Sudan, the camp of General al-Burhan has accused you of siding with the rapid support forces of General Hemeti. Recently, they came out with a statement saying it was unacceptable that you side with those people. What is your response to them? Why are you siding with the RSF?
The siding with RSF is completely untrue. These are allegations that are made left, right, and center by all manner of people. There are allegations made against so many countries. UAE has been accused. Yes. I don't know who has been accused. And you know, these are unverified claims that have no basis at all. Wow. What my position on Sudan is that both SAF and TASIS or RSF are cut from the same cloth. They are a product of the same coup that overthrew a civilian administration.
Yes.
They subsequently disagreed, and they have taken the country to the dogs, so to speak. The kind of mayhem in Sudan, the humanitarian suffering, the loss of life, the refugee situation, the displacement in Sudan is on a scale that is unprecedented. There can never be any reason, any justification for anybody to continue, babysitting the situation in Sudan. Some tough talk must get into this. And the position of Kenya is that we have the quartet bringing Egypt, Saudi Arabia, the US, and UAE as the framework.
But it's not working.
That is supposed to handle that situation.
But it's not working.
It is one of the conversations that I have had with leaders, even in this conference on the sidelines. I had a conversation of Egypt, with the President Sisi of Egypt on how we can take this forward. And we have agreed with the President Sisi that we need to still bring these two gentlemen to the table. And Kenya will do its part. We have agreed with President Sisi that Egypt will do its part because we are leaders in this continent. The war in Sudan affects Egypt, affects Kenya, affects our region, and it is our responsibility. And we will continue to do whatever it takes. Rumors, propaganda aside, there are real people. There are real children, women, families suffering in this equation. No amount of blame game, finger pointing is going to salvage this situation. We need a candid, a candid approach so that we can stop the mayhem in Sudan and alleviate the suffering of the people.
Speaking of a country that has seen its share of war, neighboring Somalia, in early February you announced that the border, which has been closed for 15 years, would reopen, but it hasn't happened. Will it happen, and when?
We were moving very well,
yes,
until there was huge disagreement between the government in Mogadishu and the states. And unfortunately, there was an escalation of war between Somali National Army and the Jubaland forces, which are right at the border in Kenya. In fact, at that point, some of the Somali National Army were actually pushed into Kenya. And that complicated the already situation that was existing there. We had to support members of the Somali National Army, fly them, assist them so that we could pacify and reduce the war. That situation was getting better, but unfortunately, it took a turn, got worse, and today we have even a much more complicated situation because the term of the parliament there expired. The term of the president, I think, is expiring.
Yes.
And that situation now, nobody knows where it's going because we have tried to broker an engagement between the states and the government in Somalia. We have not been very successful. And we're still pushing between Ethiopia, ourselves as Kenya, and Djibouti as frontline states. We're still trying to find a solution to it.
So the border will not open?
So the border for the time being is not open.
DRC, the situation in the east is still very volatile. We know the DRC president has not been very happy with Kenya's role. What is your take on the situation that seems to be stuck in a kind of nor war nor peace situation?
DRC is a place where Kenya spent resources. Kenya put our armies at risk as part of the East African force. When
you were asked to leave.
When Kinshasa said we should leave, we left. Those who came in from SADC also left. And now we have a situation where we participated early this year in the peace signing agreement, in a ceasefire agreement in Washington. But I think between the ink and the situation on the ground, there is a world of a difference. The situation on the ground has not improved. There is still, tension. There is still refugees. We still have a situation on the ground. Today, it is in a flux, unfortunately. And there is no predictable peace around there. So there is still a problem to be solved. There is still an issue. We still have people in camps. We still have a serious humanitarian situation in eastern part of DRC. And it is still our responsibility as leaders from this continent and as leaders in this region, whether we like each other or not, whether there is whatever situation exists. But we are the leaders at this point in time, and we must provide solutions, and Kenya will continue to play its part.
It's not Washington's role.
Washington has a role to play,
But not
Kenya and East Africans, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, and all of us here have an even bigger responsibility, because it affects our economies and our countries much more than it affects others.
Just a last question. There'll be elections next year. Many observers are concerned that there could be violence, that the elections might not be free and fair. Can you make sure that
there will be elections
happen?
in Kenya next year? Elections will be free and fair. Elections will be peaceful. That I can give you a guarantee, because we are a solidly democratic country. We believe in democracy. We believe in the power of the people to decide. And Kenya has gone through many phases. We have learned lessons, difficult lessons sometimes. But I think I can guarantee as president today that next year there will be elections, they will be free and fair, and they will be peaceful.
And you will be reelected?
And I will be reelected, by God's grace.
William Ruto, I want to thank you very much for being our guest here in Nairobi, the capital of your country. Thank you very much for watching this edition of Tête à Tête here on France 24.